Back at it again, y'all. Alrighty. So this video is going to be the seller, how to explain seller docs. All right. So seller only signings, they're pretty quick. Normally these appointments probably last no more than 30 minutes, depending on what seller you're working with. Documents are usually between 25 to 50 pages, if that. But yeah, these seller only signings go by pretty quick, so this video is not going to be that long as well. So I'm going to try to give you guys as much value, as much game as possible in these seller only signings. Yeah, so let's get to let's get the party started. All right. That's normal, we got to share that screen, you dig? Nah, we do it. All righty. All righty. So this is the seller's statement. All right. So again, always verify if the seller's name, the signer's name is spelled correctly. Want to make sure that, again, their name is spelled correctly, their contact information is spelled correctly, and the property that's in the transaction is correct as well. So the seller's statement is going to be, again, just like the refinance statement, it's going to be the buyer's statement. Is going to list financial consideration, sale price of the property, what they're paying in HOA dues, which is homeowners association, if they're paying what they're paying in property taxes. This also on the seller statement is going to list commissions. So, excuse me. It's going to list the commissions for the listing agent. It's going to list commissions for the selling agent. Also, it's going to list title and escrow charges, again, services that they shop for, services that the title company provides, services that you may not have shot for, government recording charges for they record the deed, payoffs. So payoffs, also, I didn't give you this gem in the refinance. I keep going to the refinance, but in the refinance and also in the seller statement, you'll see payoffs. You'll also see a document which is called the payoff demand statement. So the payoff demand statement, that document is pretty much going to state what's being paid off from the previous or existing loan. So always make sure that if the signer comes across that document to verify what's being paid off is correct. And normally, depending on the title company you work with, you'll see the payoff demand. You'll see read and approve. So you'll see, if you see a read and approve on the payoff demand, that pretty much, you're just pretty much telling the signer or the seller you just pretty much informing them that this is the payoff demand statement. Please verify this information. Please verify if this information is correct. If this information is correct, I need a signature where it says read and approve, acknowledging that you read the payoff demand statement and you approve it. So you'll, again, where it says payoffs, is going to detail in the debits and credit section of what's being paid off from the previous loan. Okay. Closing disclosure. So if you notice on the closing disclosure for the seller signing, is going to be different from the closing disclosure on the refinance. Okay, so on the closing disclosure, again, this is the final. This is gonna break down a summary of the transaction between the seller, and you also see one on the buyer side as well. So you'll see a summary of the transaction on the seller side, and sometimes you'll see it on the buyer side as well. You're just affirming, again, you're just pointing them to the information as far as the sale price of the property, any sale price of personal property included in the sale. So if I have a signer ask you, what do they mean by personal property included in the sale? Let's say, for example, if the person if the party that they're on the buyer side, they're including a chandelier inside the property, or the property includes a washer and a dryer, they're factoring in those personal properties into the sale price of the property, just in case they ask. HOA dues, homeowners association dues for the year, that's going to be included. Adjustments for items paid by seller in advance. So city, town, so county, city taxes, property taxes, assessments. It's going to list those numbers in this section. Now, there may be a situation where you're sitting down with the seller and they say, well, I've already paid these taxes. I've already paid for these taxes. These numbers are wrong. If you do come across a situation like that, the best bet is to call either the title company or have them call their real estate agent, because they're going to have that information on hand. Again, you as the notary, it's your job to explain the purpose of the document. You're not supposed to explain any particulars inside these loan docs. That's not your job, okay? It's going to also break down what's due from the seller at closing. So these numbers are going to, so again, this is what's going to break down what's due from the seller at the closing, any additional adjustments unpaid by the seller, how they calculate the cash to close, and you can't see the number because I have it blanked out, but they'll have the number that's due to the seller at closing. And then they'll also have contact information for the real estate agent or brokers that were in this transaction. And once they're done verifying that the information is correct, we just need a signature confirming that the information is correct. Okay. Next document is going to be called the disbursement of proceeds and refunds. And the way I like to explain this document again is, hello signer, this is the disbursement of proceeds and refunds. This document is asking how you would like to receive your proceeds from this transaction. Now, the first option, you can either have the title company hold the check for pickup. You can either have the funds wired to you. If you prefer to have the funds wired to you, you're going to provide the bank name, account and routing information, account number, where it says bank address. If they ask for a bank address, what I always have the signers do is Google it. Is Google a local bank in the area, and also provide their contact information for verbal information. Or if you want the check mail, or if they want to check mail to them, you can have them check this option and have them print the address so you want the check to come to them. And once they whatever option they choose to proceed with, make sure they check the appropriate box, fill in the information that's required, and then a signature and a date. Now, where it says for internal purposes only, you, the notary, do not need to fill out this section. This would be for the title company to fill out. Okay. This is the preliminary report approval. So you will see this. You will see a preliminary report that comes along with the in a seller signing, and you will also see this document in a buyer signing as well. And the way you explain this document is you're just acknowledging that you've read the preliminary report and you approve it. And the preliminary report is going to be right after the preliminary report approval. And all that document is going to state is that is going to list their title insurance information. It's going to list who's on title of the property. And sometimes, and more times, it may come with a survey. It may come with a survey of the property as well. So a survey is just going to give you a survey is going to pretty much be like a picture of the neighborhood and the property that's in the transaction. And if they acknowledge that they've received a copy of the preliminary report, again, a signature and a date. And I can't stress this enough. I want you guys to make sure that the signers sign their name as it appears on the documents. Okay. Oops. And so this document, when I first seen this document, the substitute form 1099-S, initially this was kind of intimidating because when I first conducted a seller only signing, I had no idea how to explain this document. But again, once you really just sit back and observe, don't panic, and you just read the document, you're pretty much going to have, this document is pretty much going to be used to find out what proceeds they're supposed to receive from the transaction, to find out if there's any, if they're eligible for any tax credits, anything of that nature. Again, you're just going to have the seller print their name, You have them print their first and last name. If the property is in a trust, if the seller is the seller, if the seller is if the seller in the property, and if it's in a trust and it's an entity, you can put the name of the trust here. Or if it's, are you dealing with an investment group, you can have them put that information here. Federal tax ID for the seller. What you'll do there is you'll just have them print their social security number. And if their spouse is involved in the transaction as well, have them print their spouse's name. Total consideration, depending on the signer that you're working with, if they know this information already, they can fill this information in. But if they don't know what to put inside this document, please do not guess. Do not guess on what to, do not guess. It just doesn't make sense for you to do that. Have the title company fill this information in, because at the end of the day, escrow is going to know what information to put in moving forward. Okay. Now, again, if you're working with a sophisticated seller and they've been through these kind of transactions on numerous occasions, they're going to know how to fill out this. They're going to know how to fill out this information. So again, if they're working with the signer who doesn't know how to fill in this information, leave it blank. Leave it for escrow to fill out. If you're working with a sophisticated seller who's been through numerous transactions and know how to fill out this section, please give them the space to fill out this document. Okay, or fill out this section. And where it says mailing address after close, this is pretty much self-explanatory. You're going to pretty much have the signer print their mailing address after the close of this transaction. Transfer a signature. You're going to get the seller's signature, and you're going to get the date as well. Oops. So this is the real estate withholding statement. So normally on this document, again, you either have the title company fill this document, or no, I take that back. So this information is already going to be filled in for remitter information. Part 1, this is already going to be filled in for the seller. So again, if you're working with a sophisticated seller, you're working with a seller or the signer who's been through numerous seller transactions, they're going to pretty much know how to fill in this portion. Have them fill out this section where it says part 2. They're going to fill in this section. And when it comes to part 3, part 4, so this section is going to be, let's say, for example, if they know they're eligible for tax credits and they know that information ahead of time, they can fill this information in. If not, what I always like to say is you can leave this blank, and I would advise you to refer this document after closing to your CPA or your accountant, because their CPA, or the accountant, they're gonna know what their client is eligible for as far as tax credits goes, or if they're fully exempt, from certification from this transaction. So leave this up to their CPA to fill out. Again, if you're working with a seller who knows how to fill this document out, do yourself a favor, give them the space to fill out their appropriate information, because at the end of the day, they're going to know how to fill this out. Also, as proof of part 4, I think it's part 5. Excuse me if I don't know my my Roman numerals, but I'll give you a quick story real quick. So I was working a seller only signing one time, and the actual buyer and the seller were there after signing. Okay, and when we got to this document, the seller, he already knew how to fill this out completely. So that took a lot of the guesswork out of it. Again, when you're in those situations, give the sellers a space to fill out this section if they know what they're doing. If they don't know what they're doing, again, leave it up to escrow or leave it up to the seller's accountant or CPA to fill out this information, because they know what to do moving forward. And once they're done filling out this information, where it says seller's transfer signature, is going to ask for a signature and a date. So again, these seller only signings, they're very short and sweet, short to the point. They don't really take long. It doesn't take no more than 30-35 minutes. Like I said, these documents can be between 25-50 pages, if that. And that concludes the seller only signing. So I may have to get more additional content for seller only signings, because this one was pretty short. but these are just documents that you're normally going to come across more often than not. I want to make sure that you know how to be prepared for these documents when you see them and how to explain it in a way that empowers you to be very confident in the way you explain these documents, so the signer can have confidence in you while you helping them sign these documents. So that concludes the seller only signing, and we're going to move on to the next video, the last one, which is going to be the HELOC.